Good morning, students. Today we are going to study diversity of living organism. It is a topic of a chapter, the living world. This topic belongs to the living world chapter, class 11. Uh, in my previous lecture, I have told you the differences between living and non-living organism. Today we will be starting a new topic, that is diversity of living organism. As you know, our earth has so many different kind of living organisms. There are number of species which are present on our earth. Now, do you know that there are about 1.7 million to 1.8 million species which are discovered? Now, these species are discovered, we know about them, but there are many species which are not discovered. According to Robert May estimates, there are about 7 million species which exist on Earth. Now, most of the species are still undiscovered. Now, the question arises, in which region of the world you will find these undiscovered species? Naturally, these regions will be tropics, tropical belt, where you will find millions of undiscovered species. Obviously, in some time, these undiscovered species will be discovered. So, as we see that there are so many species, therefore, it is very difficult to study them. Therefore, and we also know that so many names have been assigned to these species. Not only from one region of the world to the another region of the world, even from in India or in a particular country, the name of one organism differs from place to place. For example, in English, we call mango plant. In Hindi, we call aam ka ped. So naturally, there are languages, different languages, and therefore, living organisms, naturally, they have a different name in different languages. Now, in order to have a uniformity, so that in order to remove the confusion, scientific names have been developed. For example, scientific name for mango is Mangifera indica. Now, this is a name which even in USA people will be able to understand by observing this name that it refers to a mango plant. Even in Netherlands, Switzerland, India, Australia, or any part of the country, if people will see this name, they will be able to correlate this name with the mango plant. So naturally, it is very important to have a single scientific name for every organism which we know. Therefore, the process of naming organism in a scientific manner is called as nomenclature. But the nomenclature cannot be possible. Nomenclature cannot be possible without identifying the organism, without identification of the organism. That is, you should know to which organism the name has been assigned to. For example, if there are 4 species of plant A, B, C and D, these are the known species. If we find one more species of plant, that is E, and we say that the E plant is very similar to B plant, now this is called as identification. If the E plant is similar to B plant, that means E is not a separate species, it belongs to B species, B plant as such. If it is very similar to B plant, it may be a plant belonging to all those plants which have a definite species, that is B. So if this E is different from B, E plant which has been discovered, if it is different from B, naturally E will be a different species altogether. So this is called as identification, and identification is very essential for nomenclature. जब तक आप आइडेंटिफाई नहीं करोगे, आइडेंटिफिकेशन नहीं होगा किसी प्लांट का, तब तक आप उसका नाम नहीं दे सकते. इसीलिए आइडेंटिफिकेशन इज ऑल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट प्रोसेस. ओके, नाउ वी हैव डिस्कस्ड टू थिंग्स, nomenclature and we have discussed identification. Now in nomenclature I would like to say that in case of plants, the scientific name has been assigned by ICBN for all the plants. The full form of ICBN is International Code for Botanical Nomenclature. International Code for Botanical Nomenclature. In case of animals, it is assigned by ICZN. This is International Code for Zoological Nomenclature. So they have been responsible for assigning names of plants as well as animals. Now let us discuss about system of classification, system of naming. As such, scientific names are given according to a system which have been devised by Carolus Linnaeus. So Carolus Linnaeus, he is the person who is responsible for devising a scientific name, and this method is called as binomial nomenclature. Now let us understand the rules of binomial nomenclature first of all. Okay, let us understand the rules of binomial nomenclature. Oh, I should write here, otherwise it won't be visible. Binomial nomenclature. The first point is all the scientific names in binomial nomenclature are derived from Latin, and therefore they are written in italics. So that is the first point. All the words are from Latin and written in italics. Then the second thing is that in the binomial nomenclature, the first word belongs to the first word represents the genus, that is generic, and the second word represents the specific epithet. Specific epithet. As for example, Mangifera, this is generic, and this is indica, this is specific epithet. Then the third point is that the first word in the generic, the first letter in the generic, it will be a capital letter, and the first letter, the first alphabet in the specific epithet will be a small alphabet, a small letter. So that is the third rule. Now the fourth rule is that while writing the scientific names, if it is handwritten, it should be underlined, and if it is printed, it should be printed in italics. Now, the fourth thing is that there has to be some space in between the two. While writing the scientific name, there has to be some space. So this is generic, this is specific, this is the generic has the first alphabet capital, the specific has the first alphabet small alphabet, and there is a space in between the two. When it is handwritten, it is underlined. When it is printed, it should be in italics. And you can write the name of the person who has discovered Mangifera indica or the mango plant can be written after the specific epithet in an abbreviated form. For example, I am writing it LINN after the specific epithet that denotes that Carolus Linnaeus has discovered it. So these are the rules of binomial nomenclature. Now, let us study certain other things. Okay, now let us study about classification. What is classification? See, it is very difficult to study such large number of living organisms. Therefore, the living organisms have to be grouped into different convenient categories. If in order to study them, it is important to categorize them into convenient categories. This process of classification in which the organism, all the different organisms are categorized, are classified into different convenient categories is called as classification. For example, let us discuss the convenient categories as such. For example, if I say animals and I say mammals and I say dogs, these represents different convenient categories. All the dogs belongs to mammals and all the mammals belongs to animals. So these are different convenient categories which we are referring to. For example, when we talk about dogs, dogs have different kind of breeds. For example, let us take the example of Alsatian. Then there are Labradogs. But when you observe a dog, you will be able to say definitely that this is a dog, regardless of its size and features. There are certain particular peculiar features which you will be able to identify and relate with that this particular animal is a dog. Okay, when we are talking about mammals, then certain other things crop in our mind. It must have external ears, it must have mammary glands, it must have hairs on the body. So naturally this is a different category which is different from dogs, because in mammals even cats can come, cows can come in mammals. But when we discuss about animals in general, these may include many other organisms, not only cats, dogs, cows, it may include cows, it may include chimpanzee, also human beings are also animals, even it may include many insects. So these are different convenient categories. This scientific name for such convenient categories is called as taxa or taxon, T-A-X-O-N. When written in singular form, it is taxon, T-A-X-O-N. So here, animal is also a taxon. Of course, it is a different convenient category. Mammal also a taxon. It is a different convenient category. Dogs is also a taxon. It represents different convenient category. Now, all the organisms present on the earth can be classified on the basis of these different taxa or categories This process of classification of the organism on the basis of different taxa or different categories is called as taxonomy. Is called as taxonomy. The science which deals with classification of the organism on the basis of the different taxa or convenient categories is called as taxonomy. Okay, let us take the example of human beings in order to make it so that you may be able to understand in much better form. Homo sapiens is the scientific term, binomial normal with a binomial nomenclature. We write in this form. You can see the generic name has been written in a capital. Generic word has been written in a first letter is capital letter. This is the generic word, represents the genus, and this represents the species, specific epithet. Here you can see the small letter in the specific epithet. The word is starting with a small letter. Moreover, you can see there is a gap in between the two. So this is a scientific word for human beings. Now it is categorized into different category, or you can say taxa. I would like to classify it on the basis of different taxa. For example, this belongs to genus Homo, as you already know. Then it belongs to family Hominidae. It belongs to order. What is the order? Primata. It belongs to class. What class? Mammalia. It belongs to phylum. Phylum, what phylum? I think the space is less here. So it belongs to phylum. PHYLUM. What phylum? It belongs to Chordata. And then it belongs to kingdom. What kingdom? Animalia. So these are different taxa, genus, family, order, class, phylum, kingdom. These are different taxa. Scientific terms for the convenient categories is called as taxa. These are the convenient categories, scientifically expressed as taxa or taxon. In singular, if you are writing, you can say taxon. If in layman's language, you can say it is a convenient category. Now, even if you say, see, these are scientific terms, genus, family, order, class, these are scientific. But in layman's language, if you say, even animals are considered to be a convenient category or a taxa. Even animals are convenient categories or taxa. If you say mammals, these are again convenient categories or taxa. Dogs, these are again convenient categories or taxa. Cats, these are again convenient categories or taxa. The thing which I have written above, phylum, order, these are scientific as such. So, but that is also a taxa or a taxon, or you can say a convenient category. Everything is same. So there is no need for confusion. Now nomenclature is classifying all those organisms on the basis of different taxa. So that is called as taxonomy. For example, I have classified the Homo sapiens or the human beings into different convenient taxa, such as I wrote that it belongs to family Hominidae, then order Primata, then class Mammalia, then phylum Chordata, then kingdom Animalia. This is nomenclature. I have I have divided the whole Homo sapiens into different taxa, different convenient categories or taxa. So this is called as nomenclature. This is called as taxonomy. Sorry, this is called as taxonomy. Okay. Now let us discuss about certain other things apart from taxonomy. Uh, Let us discuss about systematics. Now, systematics is not just a study of living organism, classifying living organism into different categories or taxa. It speaks about the interrelationship between the various organisms and also evolutionary relationship between the various organisms. It also speaks about the evolutionary relationship between various organisms. Let us understand this with the help of an example. Suppose I am talking about, if I say human beings, if I ask you one question, human beings are much closer to cow. I am giving you an options. Cow, monkey, chimpanzee. If I ask you, what do you think? Which are more closer to human beings? I think definitely most of you will say chimpanzee. Now, how you will able to identify it? Though not completely, but still, chimpanzee are morphologically very similar to human beings. Not only morphologically, genetically also they are very similar. So we can say that chimpanzee are much closer to human beings. So evolutionary relationship is also comes under systematics. Systematics is the study of science which deals with the living organism, their relationship among each other, and also their evolutionary relationship. So naturally, it is much broader than taxonomy. I hope you like my topic of today. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.